Espresso has always had a dose problem. Getting the right amount of grounds into the portafilter consistently and at volume has been the challenge every grinder manufacturer over the last 50 years has been working on. And in that time, the answers have changed a lot, but the goal stays exactly the same. If you were a barista 20 years ago, you probably recognize the paddle doser. It grinds into an external chamber, then the barista sweeps grounds one pull at a time until they're satisfied. And there was no real measuring happening here, just rough volumetric eyeballing to get within, a couple grams of the target dose. The espresso was good, but a couple of grams is enough to create measurable inconsistency shot to shot. And yet, I still look back on this grinder with nostalgia to a time when espresso was simple. As interest in specialty coffee grew, so did the demand for more precise tools. Grind by time let baristas control exactly how long the grinder runs, getting doses to within about half a gram each time. And for years, this was the gold standard, and many shops are still running it today. But grind by time tech has a fundamental problem. The amount of time the motor runs doesn't always correlate to the same amount of coffee ground. Humidity, hopper fill, heat buildup, and changes to grind size, all of these subtly affect how coffee gets ground within a fixed time window, which means to run a grind by time grinder with real consistency throughout a service, you need a trained barista dialing it in continuously as conditions changed through the day. Grind by time got us the precision we wanted, it just required a lot of babysitting to keep it. Now, for 50 years, every improvement in espresso grinding was really just a better way to approximate the dose. Grind by weight, which only became commercially available in 2020, actually was the first time we measured the coffee and we knew how much coffee was going into that portafilter. Grind by weight solved grind by time's core problem with a load cell in the portafilter fork, tracking grounds in real time and stopping the grinder the instant it hits the target dose to the nearest 1/10 of a gram. No more chasing your dose after every grind size adjustment. On a timed grinder, changing grind size means changing your dose. And grind by weight breaks that link entirely, collapsing the variables down to just grind size only. And as revolutionary as that is, every modern grind by weight grinder isn't without its trade-offs. For one, the load cell usually lives in the portafilter fork. It's a precision gram scale in a pretty unforgiving location that's susceptible to damage with repeated impacts or mishandling. Most current grind by weight options require a brief 1 to 2 second tare cycle at the start of each grind while the system registers the portafilter weight, which adds a small beat to the workflow that can feel like an annoying delay when you're trying to move quick and you're not getting that tactile response from the machine. Lastly, grind by weight grinders only work on a very stable, well-grounded countertop. Their weighing can be easily disrupted by bumps or vibrations coming across the counter. If you're a mobile coffee operator, for example, dreaming of owning a grind by weight grinder, you need to know they get a little bit seasick on the road. And there's a lot of folks out there who are missing out on this tech for that very reason. The Markibar Izaga W starts exactly where the first generation of grind by weight tech left off and addresses every single one of those trade-offs directly. The Izaga's load cell is internal, tucked inside the grinding chamber, completely protected from the abuse of daily service or improper handling. It's not weighing the portafilter, it's weighing the coffee itself as it accumulates in an internal chamber. And because it's not weighing the portafilter at all, there's nothing to tare, and the grinder starts the moment the portafilter hits the switch. One more advantage of the Izaga's internal weighing chamber is its resistance to countertop vibrations. It's way more isolated from everything going on outside the grinder, which makes it a very reliable choice for coffee carts and trailers where grind by weight grinders just simply could not be used before. But the most significant innovation in the Izaga W is what happens after coffee is ground and weighed. When set to pre-grind work mode, the Izaga W stores the next dose behind an internal trap door. And the moment a portafilter is pressed against the switch, the dose drops, eliminating the 3 to 5 second wait you get with on-demand grinders. Right after the dose drops, the grinder immediately starts preparing the next one. And by the time you've tamped and locked in the portafilter to the group, the next dose is already waiting for you. The Izaga W is outfitted with a proprietary 65mm burr set, which by today's standards is a very small burr. But pre-dosing makes a single barista setup punch well above its weight, turning that time you spend tamping and locking in the portafilter into productive grinding time.
For us, the size 65 is a good trade between quality and price. First of all, we don't need a quicker grinder because we are pre-dosing in most cases or preloading. So we are doing things in parallel. When you do your brew, the next shot is ready. So we are not under pressure to get something quicker. Other manufacturers are under pressure.
The Izaga W is rated for a duty cycle of 34% on, 66% off for a production capacity of 10 pounds an hour, or about 4 shot cycles per minute. 65mm burrs in a high volume format understandably raises questions about heat management and how that heat is being transferred from the burrs to the grounds.
And the fact that we got the motor separate from the grinding chamber with a thermal bridge, it means that the heat is not being transferred from the motor to the grinding chamber. So it means that the burrs are not really getting heat up by the motor and the use. So we got also a fan which is extracting the heat, and we can keep always a constant temperature of between 30 and 40 degrees in the grinding chamber.
So even though this grinder has smaller burrs, the total separation between the motor housing and the burr chamber and an internal fan helps mitigate heat transfer during busy periods. Next, I want to get into the user interface of the Izaga W and show you what it's like to interact with this grinder and how it can be customized for different workflows. The first thing you need to know is that every work mode in the Izaga W runs concurrently with your choice of a dose selection mode. So the interface allows you to program up to 2 doses, each with a weight resolution of 1/20th of a gram. Currently, we're in on-demand work mode with last key dose identification. On-demand grinds fresh each time a portafilter is inserted, the same functionality you'd get from most grind-by-weight grinders on the market. Last key dose identification mode just means the grinder stays on whichever dose program you last used until you manually switch it. We'll explore other work modes in just a minute, but first let's enter the technical menu and explore the dose selection mode menu, which allows me to set up how I'm interacting with the grinder each time. Markibar calls this menu portafilter identification mode, but today you're with me, and I think it's easier to understand if we talk about it as dose selection. C1 and C2 selection mode sets a default dose for the grinder that it always returns to. So if your default is C2, your double shot, and you pull a single shot by selecting C1, the grinder automatically reverts back to C2 after the grind cycle as a way to keep your primary workflow without having to reset after every exception. Double touch is an interesting selection mode that lets the barista enter a single or double dose command by pressing the portafilter against the activation switch either once or twice. Press once for a C1 dose and twice for the C2 dose. Magnetic sensor is the last selection mode, which makes use of small water and heat-proof magnets that tie to the portafilter. If you're running 2 doses on 2 portafilters and you want to run it on 1 grinder, this is really the ultimate workflow solution. Its sensors detect which portafilter is in your hand even before it arrives, making the transition time from identification to grinding 0. That covers dose selection modes. Let's get into the work mode menu. We've covered on-demand and pre-grind work modes. Next is key change. In this mode, you can toggle between on-demand and pre-grind modes using the plus and minus buttons instead of navigating into the menu, giving you some cool flexibility to prioritize efficiency or freshness at different parts of the day. The last mode is C2 only precise. Now this mode gives you just 1 dose and no ability to switch between different dose sizes. C2 Precise is ideal for cafes not pulling singles and doubles, but rather a standard extraction that stays consistent for every single drink. You'll get slightly improved dosing accuracy in this mode as well, because it allows the algorithm to optimize more tightly around a single dose rather than managing two simultaneously. Like key change mode, C2 precise mode also allows the user to toggle between on-demand and pre-grind modes using the plus and minus buttons instead of navigating into the menu. Next, I want to show you one of the coolest ways I think the Izaga W can be used in a 2-dose workflow. I'm currently in pre-grind mode, and I'm in portafilter identification for my dose selection. What you don't know about the Izaga yet is that it actually has 2 internal dosing chambers, not just one. So if you're pre-grinding, you might have already thought to yourself, how could it predict whether you want a single or a double the next round? But because it stores them separately, it can either open one trapdoor or both, and that gives you instant access to pre-ground coffee for either your 1 or 2 dose, right? And that's pretty darn cool. Now, a few other things I want to cover before I wrap up. First off, Izaga comes with 2 different portafilter forks. This one is free floating, where you need to actually hold the portafilter handle while you're dosing. And this one actually is called the KB90 fork. It is made specifically for KB90 portafilters with those big ears, but standard La Marzocco portafilters also seem to work really well in here, and that allows you to have a hands-free operation during dosing. The Izaga W includes a bi-directional adjustment lock that keeps your grind settings secure between uses. Markibar makes grinders with both stepped and stepless adjustment. This particular unit has some nice tactile steps. The Izaga W is compatible with the Puqpress M2 for a super streamlined tamping workflow. All you need to do is set this grinder directly on top of the Puqpress, set your desired tamping pressure, and you'll be tamping completely automatically, much faster than doing it by hand. You can find the Puqpress M2 linked in the description as well. Looking ahead, Markibar will soon release a version of the Izaga W with grind by sync compatibility, or what they call Markibar Connect, which hardwires the grinder to select espresso machines and guides the barista on grind size adjustments throughout the day to keep extraction on target. Which brings the evolution full circle, right? We started with a barista eyeballing grounds in a basket. We end with a system that manages every variable automatically, leaving the barista to focus entirely on the mechanics of preparation and the quality of what's in the cup. Stay tuned to our channel for a deep dive on the Markibar Connect in the near future. But that's all for today. Check out the Markibar Izaga W commercial espresso grinder at the link in the description. Happy brewing.